Joshua Ray Gooch, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, man, good to be here.
So we got some great guitars here today. This is the brand new Player 2 series.
Fantastic.
And as you can see, we got a lot to talk about. We've got some great new options. We've got some new fingerboard options. We've got some killer new colors, some new pickups, some new hardware. And yeah, we're just gonna get into all that today.
Love it. I'm excited, man. I came in here the other day and played some of these guitars. So I played the Teles and the Jazz Masters. So a little bit of the line, and everything felt fantastic. I had some questions that I saved for you. There's some other guitars like the Mustang, the Jaguar and stuff I didn't play. So I haven't touched them, and I do have a bunch of questions because they were kind of hanging out in the room. So I get to see them and just kind of come up with like, well, what's this, and did you change that? So I've got a bunch of stuff I want to ask you because I know that there's some changes from the Player 1 series that you guys have made. So I'm looking forward to it.
So like I mentioned before, we've got some new hardware here. Right up at the top here, we've got these classic gear tuners. That's a part of this, kind of a more classic look you might notice on Player 2 now versus Player 1. Vintage style buttons, but you get a nice modern gear ratio. Obviously, we have this beautiful rosewood fretboard here as well, back due to popular demand. It's just a classic Fender tone wood, classic sound, classic look.
And the necks all feel incredible. So what did you guys actually do to achieve that?
So what you're feeling is the rolled fretboard edges that are coming on the series now. It's just it's kind of rounding out the edges, right? Just making it a little smoother, a little easier to get around on the fretboard, especially if you're kind of stretching a few frets, right? It's just, or if you're like hooking your thumb over to, to catch that root note or whatever it is, right?
Which I do, I do that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I think Hendrix really has turned so many people onto that.
Yeah, so it's just in, the pursuit of making it easier, right? Making it just, removing any of those impediments to getting the performance you want, right? And to be able to play how you want without even having to think about it. You'll also notice these really cool colors on the guitars. We've got coral red on the Strat there, and we've got birch green on the Tele. These are actually vintage car colors, never before used by Fender. We came across this kind of suite of colors ranging from like 54 to like 77.
Fender has clearly had success with using swatches from car colors.
Absolutely.
So why not go back to the well?
It's the same thing Leo did back in the day, right? Where it's like literally going, I think that looks cool, put it on a guitar.
How many choices are there for each guitar? Are they different for each guitar?
It varies a little bit, but most guitars, you'll have, somewhere between 4 to 5 to 6 options.
Oh, this is quite a few. It just kind of
depends on,
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot for people that have specific color combinations that they like. There will definitely be one in there that they're gonna appreciate, I would imagine.
You've got the P bass back here. It's like, okay, that Hialeah yellow, one of the new colors, looks great with a maple board. So you've got the coral red Strat. I've got birch green on the Tele here. We've got aquatone blue on the Jag. And like I mentioned, Hialeah yellow on the P bass here. So it's just a cool suite of colors. They look great together or alone. So Josh, we have a couple of guitars here. We've got the Player 2 Strat, and we've got a Player 1 Strat. We're gonna do a little head-to-head comparison here just so we can see everything that's different, and there's a few things that are the same. So I'm gonna start here at the headstock again like we did before. So, right off the bat, you can tell the difference between these classic gear tuners and our cast sealed tuners, right? So, from the front, the tuning, the buttons themselves are a dead giveaway, right?
Yeah.
But again, the feel is gonna be the same. Like when you're actually tuning the guitar, it's gonna be nice and smooth. Another thing I mentioned was the tint on the headstock and the neck, right? So you can see there's a pretty substantial difference here. This looks, it's been around for a few years, right? Like
it's a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
At least to me, the aesthetic of that is like visibly, Like if I walked in a room, I would notice the difference between those pretty quickly. And that tint is like perfect. It's not too yellow, but it's also not fully white either. It's like right in there where it's like aged in a natural way.
Yeah,
It's
like a nice middle ground. Looks like it's been on a few stages maybe, you know, hung on the wall. So, and then obviously next, like that's a maple board, but we've got the rosewood board here on the Strat. So again, with the aged tint with the rosewood board, right? You just, this very classic Fender look. We've also got these aged white parts on the, you know, for pickup covers, your knobs, your trem and switch tip. It's a pretty immediate visual indicator, and just especially with the contrast with the pick guard in combination with the darker tint and the rosewood board, you know, it's much more you know, premium kind of upscale looking package overall. Especially with these colors, right? These brand new colors, they pop. They're so bold and bright and really, really exciting.
Well, it adds visual interest too, like having the variation from the pick guard to the pickups and the switch tips and the knobs. It just adds more visual interest to the body of the guitar in a way that also adds the upscale and the vintage element. But just from a color perspective, I feel like it makes a difference.
It just grabs you,
yes,
right?
Just like the headstock.
It immediately grabs you and says, wow, there's something different going on here. So we talked about some of the things that are different between Player 2 and Player 1. There are a few things that are the same that kind of made those the beloved guitars that we've had in the market now for a little while. One of those things are the player pickups on the Strats, the Teles, basses, and a few other models. You know, we went through so many iterations of pickups trying to, you know, we always play with voicings and try to come up with unique but great sounding and, you know, really usable tones. And, you know, we've experimented and tried so many, but we just kept coming back to these original player pickup sets. So that's going to be true for the Strat. It's going to be true in the Tele, like I said, and a few other models. We've also got some of the same hardware. So on the Strat, you've got the 2-point trem with bent steel saddles, right? So bent steel, the classic Strat tones. But the 2-point trem is going to give you it's going to be a little smoother. It's the same thing as we're trying to do with everything else in the line. Make it easier for players to adjust and to use in general. Instead of, you know, having a bunch of screws that you might be fiddling with, even if you're not experienced, that might be daunting, right?
Sure, yeah, of course.
So just again, simplifying but also improving the functionality of the instrument is a core piece of the Player series. So that's the Strat. We've got a couple Jazz Masters up here we can take a look at as well and see what's going on here.
All right.
We've got 2 Jazz Masters up here now. We've got a Player 2 Jazz Master in Birch Green, and we've got a Player 1 Jazz Master in 3-tone Sunburst. And right away, you can tell the difference between the 2 series, right?
Pretty immediate.
Again, you've got that darker tint. Here is a great comparison between the Rosewood on Player 2 and the Pau Ferro on Player 1, right? So we're really excited to have this back. On the Jazz Master, we are, instead of the humbuckers, which we had in the previous series, we've now got more traditional single coils, a little hotter, a little more output than a, you know, vintage style Jazz Master pickup. But they're gonna give you those beautiful highs, really crystalline and clear, in combination with, you know, the traditional Jazz Master trem, right? This whole thing is the mojo of the Jazz Master, all working together with the overtones behind the bridge. And speaking of the bridge, we've also got the upgraded Mustang saddle bridge. And what's really cool about this bridge and these saddles in particular is if you look at the bridge on Player 1, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of height adjustment screws in combination with your intonation screws, in combination with your the plate for the bridge overall, right? There's a lot of things that you would need to adjust to be able to get this thing dialed in. The beauty of the Mustang saddles is that they're pre-radiused. its radius to the fretboard. The radius is the same between the series, 9.5-inch radius with medium jumbo frets. So that's carried through as well. But again, this bridge just, it's quality of life, simplicity, you know, pick it up, plug it in and play. You don't have to worry about, you know, screws moving around on you, making adjustments either on the fly or otherwise, especially, you know, if maybe this is your first offset, if this is your first Jazzmaster and you're not quite sure yet, you know, what's going on here with all the geometry and all the mechanics, right? So we've got a Player 2 P-Bass now and a Player 1 P-Bass. You can, again, very clearly see the difference in the tint on the neck. That just jumps out immediately. You've got the beautiful Hialeah yellow on the body, and you've got the rounded fretboard edges as well. So again, a little love for our friends in the bass community.
That's right. And that's a great looking bass. I mean, that's a great, I don't think I've ever seen that particular shade of yellow before. So clearly,
yeah, it's really unique. It kind of rides the line, right? And some of these colors kind of subtly change depending on, you know, what's next to them. If it's a white, it looks a little more yellow. If it's a black, it looks a little paler. So yeah, a little bit of the subtlety there really sets these colors off well.
Yeah, that particular combo is really nice.
Yeah, very, very beautiful. Some of the cosmetic changes we've made. One of the big things is a darker neck tint here. And, you know, when you combine that with the aged parts on the offsets and on the Strat there, with the classic gear tuners, with these, you know, classic, you know, never before used vintage colors that we're bringing in, all of a sudden now Player 2 is this very classic Fender package. You know, everything we loved about the first Player, but now it's, you know, it's a little more upscale, a little more elegant. And we're really excited for how these have come out.
Amazing. So you get something familiar, but it's also new.
Exactly.
Which is always a difficult thing to find.
It's a fine line, man.
I'm excited that you guys brought the HSS Strat and the double H Tele there, because there are players that they love Strats, but the style of music that they play, they have to have a humbucker in the bridge.
Absolutely.
And I know some of the super traditionalists are like, that should never, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's sometimes, there's a reason that so many people have opted for that over the years.
And it's super popular. It's, you know, it is up there in, you know, the top 5 most popular models that we carry in a lot of series. So yeah, it's something that, you know, if they can't get it, people are modding it. So we figured, again, you know, let's give people that option up front. So if you're a new player, you don't have to go figure out how to find a tech or to go to a shop or whatever. It's like you can have this option right out of the box.
Right there. One more thing, because I love Mustangs. It's a little bit of an unheralded classic. Like, not enough people I know own Mustangs, but everybody I know that's into them is obsessed with them, including myself. And I'm glad that you guys included the Mustang in addition to the bass. It's nice that at a slightly lower price point, people can still get the Mustang bass sound, because it really is an incredibly punchy bass sound that is different from the Jazz and the Precision.
Correct. And it's all, you know, it's short scale too. So it's a little easier to get around on, especially for if you're a guitarist who's maybe wanting to pick up a bass. It's easing you into the curve. So, you know, if you're not having to stretch maybe quite as far, you know, the frets are a little further apart, you know, so, you know, right out of the gate, you're comfortable on it.
We've gone through all the guitars. It's been a blast. You've told me a bunch of specs about all of them. We've played a bunch. And I feel like you're the right person to ask. You guys have worked on this for a long time. Who was this designed for? Because obviously when you guys are working on this, you're thinking of a certain subset of players that these are for. Who would that be?
Yeah, so great question. You know, probably first and foremost, these are perfect for a player. Maybe they're still, you know, kind of in the early phases of getting into guitar and into playing. Maybe they've been playing a Squire for a while, right? And they're ready to take that next step up into a Fender, right? So this series is perfect for them, right? Another player would be somebody who's maybe they've just got their first band together. They're starting to play out for the first time. They need to upgrade their gear, right? So again, this is perfect for that. These are ready, you know, to hit the stage and, you know, to play a few sets. They're gonna do everything you need, right? The last one I would say would be maybe more, intermediate to advanced players who maybe they already have a collection, but they're looking for something that they don't quite have yet. Maybe they're a Strat or a Tele player, but they're looking for something a little different to kind of round it out. Like maybe they want a Jazzmaster. Maybe they're looking for a Jag or a Mustang, something with a short scale, a little different feel, a little different sound, right? Or maybe it's a Mustang bass, right? You're a guitar player who's wanting to either, learn to play bass or record. That's gonna be, the perfect tool for you right there. Josh, thanks again for being here with us. We really appreciate it. And for everyone watching at home, you guys can go to fender.com to find out more. Thanks a lot.